During the post-processing, the goal is to take a look at the gait signals, determine if there is any noise, and edit accordingly. There are 3 different editing techniques that we can use during the post-processing. The first one that we'll talk about here is called the correct. The correct's main goal is to help edit data that has mistakenly been identified as in the stance phase back to the swing phase. To start, we'll want to use the play video button to take a look at the noise and identify what's going on. To do this, select the play video button. Click once on the screen to zoom in, and then click to the left and right of the area that we want to look at. The video will replay at the same time as the graph, showing us simultaneously what's going on in the raw video, versus what the software thinks is happening via the gait signal graph. When we play back the video, let's pay attention to the right forepaw specifically. On the graph, the software has identified that the animal's paw stepped down into the stance phase around the 0.8 second mark. When we watch the raw video playback, we can see that the right forepaw remained in the air and didn't step down during this time period, meaning that it was actually in the swing phase, not the stance phase. The software generated a type of noise that we will call a false peak. For a false peak, we will want to edit this and change the graph from the stance phase back to the swing phase that we saw in the raw video. To do this, we'll use the correct editing feature. To edit this noise, we're going to close out of the play video feature and then click on correct. Then we'll click once to zoom in on the area of interest, and then click once to the left of the green dot that begins the false peak, and once to the right of the blue dot that ends the false peak. This highlights the noise and indicates to the software that we want to change this from stance to swing. Since there is nothing else we want to edit, we can select No on the pop-up and our signals have been edited properly. Notice how we no longer have that peak in stance phase, but the length of our signals remains unchanged. Here's another example of using the correct editing technique on some gait signals. In this set of data, there are 2 areas of noise that we'll want to look at that look different from the rest of the signals. These noisy parts are a bit less obvious than what we saw in the last example and emphasize why it's important to use the play video button on anything that looks a bit abnormal. Let's begin by using the play video button to take a look at what happens in each. Click the play video button, click once to zoom in and once to the left and right of the area we want to look at. The software here identified the right forepaw as being in stance phase, but the raw video tells us that the right forepaw was in swing phase. Playing this back again, we can see that this was a mistake and that we'll want to use the correct button to edit it. Before editing, though, we'll want to use the play video button on the other section of noise. It's important to use the play video button on anything you want to look at in your video before moving on to making the edits. Using the play video again, we can see that the software identified the right forepaw as in stance phase, when in reality the raw video shows us that it is in swing phase. This is the same as the other noise we just looked at, and we will also want to edit it the same with the correct. Select the correct button and click once to zoom in on the first noise. Then click once to the left of green and once to the right of the blue. Since there are more than one correct here, this time on the pop-up, we will want to select Yes when asked if there are additional regions to correct. We can go through the edits one by one until we have finished. In addition to changing a full gait signal from stance to swing phase, the correct button can also be used to edit collisions. Collisions occur when the forepaws and hindpaws get close to one another and end up merging together. This causes a sharp peak in paw area at the beginning or end of a gait signal. Collisions can be due to either the nature of how the animal is walking or an over-definition in paw area caused by incorrect settings of our red and black sliders during the pre-processing phase. In the example gait signals we have here, you can see a sharp peak in paw area at the beginning of the gait signals for the left hind paw. Let's play back the video to see what's happening. Start by watching the raw video in the bottom left to see how the left hind paw and left forepaw get very close to one another and almost touch. Now let's focus on the colored paw prints video on the bottom right. See how the green left hind paw merges with the pink left forepaw for a frame or two. These two paws collided with one another and incorrectly combined paw area. To edit these, we're going to use the correct button again. This time we're going to click on the correct to begin, click once to zoom in on the area of interest, and then click once to the left of the green dot and once to the right of the red dot, highlighting the sharp peak in paw area. As with before, if there are more than one correct, you'll want to make all of them at the same time before clicking No to finish. Using the correct, we are able to smooth out the collisions and get a more accurate reading on peak paw area.